Lost Generation, here we are, coming back to you again. I'm out in the garage, I was sanding some parts, so apologies for being covered in dirt and dust. I only stay clean for 30 minutes at a time, pretty much. I'm almost always dirty, always getting into something. But I was just out here working, and I had a thought pop into my head about a story time. Someone had actually told me a few weeks ago that I should do this as a story time. So here we go. I'm going to tell you about the time I almost died in my sleep while I was homeless. It was a pretty rough night. So the story goes like this. A girl that I know called me and told me if I stopped by around 7 o'clock that she could get me a plate of food and a place to stay for the night, a place to sleep. Well, I got there and she brought me out a plate of food, and the guy that was living there at the time, who was her mom's boyfriend, basically said in no uncertain terms that I couldn't stay there. So by this time, it's already getting to be dark. It was either the spring or the autumn. I think it was autumn, where temperatures were somewhat cold during the day, but not, bone-chilling cold. So it was probably around 60 degrees, 50s, somewhere in that area that day. So I didn't really have much with me, just my clothes, my bike, and a backpack. I didn't have any extra blankets, any coats, or anything like that. And I didn't have anywhere else to go that night. I had kind of banked on staying there. I talked to the guy. I said, I'll sleep in your garage. It'll just be this once. I'll be out of your hair. And he said no. So, it's his house. I'm not a jerk like that. Like a lot of people I feel like would have flipped out, got all upset. But it's his house. It's his rules. It's not my place to demand that I stay at someone's house, especially seeing as he didn't offer me personally. So I was in a bit of a predicament here, and I just did what I could at the time, which is this was in a residential cul-de-sac, and it was like a fairly middle class cul-de-sac, a lot of $200,000 to $300,000 homes in the area, and it was still under construction. So there was a construction trailer nearby in a lot that had been leveled, bulldozed. So that was my only place to stay. So I crawled under this construction trailer, and that's where I stayed the night. Now, like I said, all I had was the clothes on my back and my backpack. I didn't have any blankets, sleeping bag, heavy top layers, anything like that. So I was sleeping on a piece of plywood on the ground underneath this construction trailer. And unlucky for me, the temperature plummeted to somewhere in the high 30s, mid 30s, and it did so while I was asleep. And all I remember is sometime around 6 in the morning, I was shocked awake, and my body was on the verge of hypothermia. If I didn't wake up, I probably would have never woke up. So my body was shocked awake. I woke up, I was trembling, shivering. I was so cold, my core temperature had probably already started dropping. And the only thing I could think of was surviving at the time. So I started collecting scrap pieces of wood, trash, rubbish, anything I could find that would burn. And I lit a fire by the side of the road in a middle class cul-de-sac by this construction trailer. And I basically was in the fetal position next to this fire and fell back asleep once I had warmed up. Sometime around 8 or 9 in the morning, I opened my eyes. I was still really groggy, and I could see like the neighbors were outside, the kids were outside, they were all doing stuff, and much to my shock, they were acting like I wasn't even there. Like there wasn't a homeless guy in a fetal position next to a makeshift fire in the middle of this cul-de-sac. My mind was blown. I figured for sure that the cops were going to get called on me and I was going to have to do a lot of explaining, if not get arrested for something. So all these people are going about their normal business while this homeless guy is sleeping next to a fire. And it's the only choice I had. If I didn't light that fire, I probably wouldn't have made it. I was on the verge of hypothermia. I was starting to lose functions in my body. It was hard to move. It was hard to grip anything. It was hard to even really walk because my joints had set up, and I was shivering uncontrollably. So I lit the fire, and it must have been the Creator looking out for me. But no one called the police. No one, interfered with me, which, if you've ever been homeless, that is the plight of the homeless, is constant people interfering with you, calling the police on you, people harassing you. I will do a story about what it's like to be homeless and the things that you go through while being homeless. It's something that people need to hear because most of you have never experienced it, never hopefully will, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It's one of the worst fates I think I could wish on anyone. And that's saying something. Anyways, this is Lost. I'm out.